Have you ever felt like you were living your life behind a thin pane of glass? You can see everything happening, you can participate, but you can't quite feel it. There's a distance, a quiet hum of something that isn't quite right. For years, that was my reality. There was a time when fear and anxiety controlled my life. They were the unseen architects of my days, dictating my choices, my thoughts, and my ability to simply be present. It wasn't a loud, dramatic takeover. There were no cinematic breakdowns or grand declarations of struggle. It happened quietly, and it was constant. A low-frequency dread that became the background music to my entire existence. Fear was the relentless voice in my head, a tireless narrator of worst-case scenarios. It would whisper, "What if you say the wrong thing? What if you fail? What if they find out you're not good enough?" And anxiety was its physical accomplice. It was the tightness in my chest that never fully left, the shallow breaths I didn't notice I was taking, the permanent knot in the pit of my stomach. My body was always on high alert. On the outside, I smiled. I functioned. I looked fine. I went to work. I met up with friends. I did all the things a normal person does. I became an expert at performing okay. But inside, I was always bracing for something to go wrong. I could be in the happiest moment, and a part of my mind would be scanning the horizon for the inevitable disaster. It was exhausting. Today, I want to share the story of how I finally found peace, how I learned to dismantle that internal architecture of fear, not by becoming stronger or tougher, but by becoming free. By learning to be gentle with myself, to understand the language of my own nervous system, and to finally let go. And I want to tell you my personal story, because if you're watching this, if any of this sounds familiar, you might be where I once was, and I want you to know that there is a way through. This isn't about fighting a battle. It's about coming home to yourself. Fear didn't just scare me, it shrunk my life. I overthought every decision. I replayed conversations. I feared loss before anything was even lost. Anxiety made me live in the future, imagining pain that hadn't happened yet. I was exhausted from protecting myself from imaginary disasters. And the worst part? I thought this was just who I was. I thought, some people are confident. I'm just anxious. That belief kept me stuck longer than the fear itself. One day, I realized something that changed everything. Fear was not trying to destroy me. It was trying to protect me. Fear was saying,
"Don't get hurt again. Don't lose control. Don't risk pain."
But protection had turned into a prison. So instead of fighting fear, I asked it, "What are you trying to save me from?" That question softened something inside me. I stopped judging myself for being anxious. And that compassion was the first crack in the cage. So, how did I actually do it? How I beat fear and anxiety, step by step. This isn't a magic formula, but a collection of gentle practices that, over time, created a profound shift. It's a path I walked, and one I want to share with you now. The very first, and perhaps most counterintuitive step, was this. I stopped resisting my feelings. For years, my automatic response to that familiar knot in my stomach was to fight it, to push it down, ignore it, distract myself. I treated anxiety like an enemy I had to defeat. But the more I tried to push anxiety away, the louder it became. It was like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The more force I used to submerge it, the more violently it would burst back to the surface, often at the worst possible moments. My resistance was actually feeding the fear. So I practiced saying something new. At first, it felt strange, almost wrong. But I would take a quiet moment, place a hand on my heart, and just acknowledge it. I'd say to myself, "I feel anxious, and that's okay. This feeling is here, and I can make space for it. No panic, no shame, just presence. I stopped judging myself for feeling it. This simple act of naming and allowing was revolutionary. It took the power out of the emotion, because I was no longer at war with a part of myself. After all, feelings want to be felt, not fixed. Next, I learned how to come back to the present moment. I realized that so much of my suffering wasn't about what was actually happening, but what I feared happen. Anxiety lives in the future, in an endless loop of what-ifs. Fear lives in the imagination, creating catastrophic scenarios that haven't occurred. But freedom lives now, in this breath, in this second. When my mind raced, I grounded myself using my senses. I used a technique called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I would stop and silently name 5 things I could see: the lamp, the book on the table, a crack in the ceiling, my own hands, the color of the wall. 4 things I could feel: the texture of my jeans, the cool air on my skin, the solid ground beneath my feet, the weight of my phone in my hand. 3 things I could hear: the hum of the refrigerator, a distant siren, my own breathing. 2 things I could smell: the coffee on my desk, the scent of rain outside. And 1 thing I could taste: the lingering mint from my toothpaste. Simple, but powerful. It pulled my focus out of the future and anchored me firmly in the now. Then I changed my inner dialogue. I started to pay attention to the stories I was telling myself. For so long, the soundtrack of my anxiety was a constant looping question. I was always asking, what if everything goes wrong? What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I can't cope? This question assumed the worst and put me in a defensive, powerless state before anything had even happened. So I decided to flip the script. I started asking a different, more empowering question. What if I can handle whatever comes? That single shift gave me back my power. It didn't pretend that bad things wouldn't happen. It just affirmed my belief in my own resilience. It changed the focus from the unpredictable outcome to my own inherent strength. And finally, I let go of control. This was the hardest part. My anxiety had convinced me that if I could just plan for every outcome, manage every detail, and control every person's perception, then I would be safe. Fear feeds on control, but life doesn't obey control. It's messy, unpredictable, and wild. My desperate attempt to control everything was the very source of my exhaustion and anxiety. So I learned to trust instead. I learned to trust timing, believing that things would unfold as they were meant to, even if it wasn't on my schedule. I learned to trust myself, knowing that I had the resources to navigate challenges as they arose. And I learned to trust that pain doesn't mean failure. It's simply a part of the human experience, a teacher. Letting go felt terrifying, like I was free-falling. But I soon realized that holding on was destroying me. The freedom was in the fall. Alongside these big shifts, I wove in small daily micro-practices. I'd do a quick body scan, just noticing where I was holding tension without judgment. My shoulders? My jaw? I'd practice compassionate self-talk, speaking to myself the way I would a dear friend. And I started journaling, not to find answers, but just to get the swirling thoughts out of my head and onto paper. These small acts built the foundation for a new way of being. Let's try one of those practices together now. Just a moment to breathe. Wherever you are, get comfortable. Gently close your eyes if that feels right for you. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, feeling your belly expand. And now a long, slow exhale through your mouth. Again, breathe in, filling yourself with calm. And breathe out, letting go of tension. One more time. Inhale. Just notice how you feel. What freedom felt like. 7:39 a.m. Freedom didn't arrive like fireworks. It arrived quietly. One day I noticed. My chest felt lighter. My thoughts were calmer. Silence no longer scared me. I laughed more. I slept better. I responded instead of reacting. I stopped living in survival mode and started living. Freedom felt like breathing deeply, being okay with uncertainty, trusting myself again. Not fearless, but unafraid to live. And so, as we close our time together, I want to leave you with a message directly from my heart to yours. If you're struggling with fear or anxiety, if you feel lost in the noise of it all, please pause for a moment and truly hear this. You are not broken. Your system isn't malfunctioning. That feeling of fear is a sign that your body is trying to protect you. It's a deeply human, ancient response. It doesn't need to be fixed, only understood and held with compassion. You are not weak. To carry the weight of anxiety, to get up each day and face the world when your mind is screaming at you to hide, that requires a strength most people will never comprehend. You are a warrior, not in spite of your fear, but because of it. And most importantly, you are not alone. I know how isolating it feels, like you're the only one in the world who can't seem to get it right. But I promise you, millions of us are walking this path right alongside you. We are a quiet community, holding space for each other. Remember, fear doesn't mean you're failing. It means you care deeply. It means you have a tender heart and a desire for things to go well. That is a beautiful quality. And freedom isn't the absence of fear. It's not a magical destination where nothing ever feels scary again. It's the confidence that fear doesn't control you anymore. It's knowing that when fear visits, you can greet it, listen to its message, and then gently guide it to the passenger seat while you remain in control of the wheel. If any part of this video helped you, I invite you to sit with that feeling. Don't rush away, just breathe. Let the words settle. And remind yourself, as often as you need to, I am safe in this moment. Thank you for being here, for showing up for yourself. That alone is a huge victory. You are already so much closer to freedom than you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe.